All right. Welcome to the Viking Age podcast. I'm your host, Adam Patrick. I'm the editor and lead writer for thevikingage.com. And as always, I'm joined by Chris Schad, who writes for us here at the Viking Age, as well as Bring Me the News and Zone coverage. Before we start today's show, make sure if you're watching this on YouTube to subscribe to our channel, like this video if you are already, or if you have already, we greatly appreciate you. And then make sure to follow the Viking Age on Twitter and Facebook. All right, Chris, let's just get right into it. And we were going to, just talk about the Week 13 matchup between the Jets and Vikings. But then Patrick Peterson decided to probably create some unnecessary controversy on a recent episode of his podcast. So, Patrick Peterson, we know, used to be with the Cardinals, former Arizona Cardinals first-round pick, all-pro cornerback. Now he's with the Vikings. He hasn't been shy about not liking the way how things ended with the Cardinals. Had a lot to say after the Vikings beat the Cardinals earlier this year, and now he seems to still be kind of fixated on the Cardinals because on a recent episode of his podcast, All Things Covered with Brian McFadden, he was asked about Cliff Kingsbury and if he would be the scapegoat for the Cardinals' problems this year. And Peterson was pretty quick to agree and say yes, of course. And then he was asked whether Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray would, maybe stick up for Kingsbury and maybe fight for him to stick around. And Patrick Peterson decided to say no. Kyler Murray, quote, Kyler Murray don't care about nobody but Kyler Murray. That's just a matter of fact. And then Kyler Murray saw this, responded on his Twitter account and wrote, this isn't true. You want some weird shit? You got my number. If you really feel like this as a, quote, big bro or, quote, mentor, you're supposed to call me and tell me, not drag me so your podcast can grow. That's pretty much the end of it. And hopefully it is the end of it. But does it bother you at all that Peterson continues to keep starting shit with his former team? It's obviously something that bothers him, and he still doesn't like how things ended, and he feels like he can't get over it. Even though the Vikings are 9-2 and the Cardinals are not good, but for some reason Patrick Peterson still talks about his old team. Does it bother you at all?
I don't care.
Okay.
I don't. I mean, that's not exactly jaw-dropping analysis for me, but I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter to me. If he's pissed off at the Cardinals and he feels the need to sound off, and I mean, I'm sure I have not seen the clip. I know what he said, I am familiar with it, but I mean, he's probably just stating what we already know, right? I mean,
Yeah,
there's
he didn't
not a
come out of
good.
I will say this. He didn't come out of the blue. He wasn't like, hold on. Kyler
Yeah,
Murray is selfish. He
we're
didn't do
talking
that.
Vikings Jets. Hey, Kyle Murray sucks.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, no.
He didn't do that. He was asked a question by his co-host, and he answered it. So it was kind of, if it was the co-host knew what he was doing, Brian McFadden. He
Mhm.
knew what was going to happen with this. So he's a little guilty of this as well. But yeah, he didn't come out and just say Kyler Murray's selfish.
Like Patrick Peterson strikes me as a guy that's going to be in media at the end of his career just because
Oh
he's
yeah.
very thoughtful, he's very insightful with his answers and everything else. And I think he was just, I mean, I don't think he's the only current or ex-Cardinal to think that about
He's
Kyler
not.
Murray.
No, he's
I
not.
mean, I have not watched the Hard Knocks, but I can't imagine there's too many flattering things about Kyler.
I have.
I mean, have they been like, oh yeah, Kyler Murray, hero, yeah.
There has they have specific, on Hard Knocks how they focus on some players at certain times, and they'll go into their background and everything. I'm 3 episodes in. I think the fourth one came out last night. There hasn't been like a profile on Kyler Murray, right? They did one on Colt McCoy before they did one on Kyler Murray. And every time I see Kyler Murray on the stage, he acts like it seems like he's a kid. Like he's super talented and everything, but he's also what, 25? So he still really is a kid when you compare him to everyone else in that locker room. But yeah, he there hasn't really been a focus on him, and I'm probably pretty sure there's a reason for that.
So I mean, I you know, I don't really care. I mean, everybody's got a podcast. Everybody says things now and
Yeah.
then. I mean, this is just gaining attention because Patrick Peterson isn't the only guy. Like, it
Correct.
is a national storyline that Kyler Murray's leadership is probably a little bit lacking. That
Yep.
maybe he does need to grow up a little bit and put down the video games. I love video games. I mean, I'm probably going to go play NCAA 14 after this podcast. But I mean, at some point too, you have to be like, okay, I'm the leader of this franchise. I'm a CEO. It reminds me of, and this is a cross sport reference, but Carl Anthony Towns, who comes off as this kind of fake leader, and he just doesn't have any leadership skills. Although he's supremely talented, he just does
Right.
not. He does not lead teams. So I mean, we're kind of seeing that with Kyler Murray, and I think Patrick Peterson just felt that a little bit. And like I said, it was not an unprompted answer. He was asked a question and he gave a valid response.
Yeah. Yeah. He's not the only person who thinks this, because I think I was reading the article by Mike Florio on this on Pro Football Talk, and he mentioned how the rumor of Larry Fitzgerald deciding to retire had something to do with Kyler Murray's lack of leadership and him not being the greatest of teammates to work with. Um, so yeah, Kyler Murray. It reminds me there's a lot of players. Like, every player in the NFL is talented. You get the NFL, it's like you're like 0.01% of the population to make that to get that goal. And then the people who excel the most are usually the people that are able to also get like the most out of their teammates. And it doesn't really feel like Kyler Murray is able to do that right now. You know, if he gets a different coach who can get that out of him, I think that's possible. I think I don't see Pete Carroll going anywhere, but I feel like if he was with someone like Pete Carroll, like that would be a much better situation for him, because he's more of a player's coach and he can be like, hey, like let's do this, go do this, and that might work better. But right now, Cliff Kingsbury, I don't think he's not the right guy for this Cardinals team, and it's pretty clear with their record. Do you think Kevin O'Connell has to have a talk with Peterson or anything about this? Like, hey, just like chill out, dude. We're 9-2. Stop. I know you have a podcast, but if you don't need to be creating it, because now this is national headlines. Like, this is all over ESPN. This is CBS, all that stuff. Like, this is, and obviously for good reason, because people know that people are gonna want to read about it. But like, does Kevin O'Connell need to step in here and be like, hey, no more. Let's just, you want to talk about that? Do it in the offseason.
He'll probably step in, but I mean, I don't think it's like a crisis thing. Like, it's not something that's going to tear apart the Vikings. I think more than anything, it's probably just going to be, football is weird. He could be on the field, and I don't know if he sees, like, he talked about, I'm just kind of going back to a interview he had with KFAN where he said, Kevin O'Connell did have to tell him to calm down a little bit when he was playing the Cardinals, because he was just overamped basically. And, that whole game, he was just kind of like a wreck. I mean, thankfully, the Vikings aren't going to see the Cardinals the rest of the year unless they make some kind of just bonkers push towards the playoffs. But I don't think it's something that it's like, hey, shut the hell up, or, whatever. I think that, like I said, he wasn't the one who initiated it.
Right.
He was asked a question and answered it. So,
and taking it from the other perspective, the best corners in the NFL usually have this kind of like mindset where it's like, just F everybody. Like, I'm the best. Like, my old situation was terrible. I got out of there. Like, look at someone like Jalen Ramsey, who, if Jalen Ramsey says this, no one cares. No one's like, oh, okay. That's what he does.
Yeah.
Because it's Patrick Peterson, because it's his old team, because it's Kyler Murray. Like, it's different. But like, you want your cornerbacks to have this kind of mentality where it's like, I'm the best. And right now, this season, Patrick Peterson, pretty good. I think he's the fifth best graded corner by PFF this year.
Yeah.
That's
I
pretty
mean,
good.
this Patrick Peterson is way better than last year's Patrick Peterson.
Correct.
So when you're playing well, you can say whatever the hell you want, basically. I mean, Sauce Gardner's walking around with a cheese head after beating the Packers.
Yeah,
You know why? Because he beat the Packers.
Yeah.
He can do that. I saw some people like, oh, that's too much. That's too much. No.
No.
If he runs around doing the skull chant after beating
He's
the Vikings,
he's gonna do that. They're gonna do that. They
100%.
They are gonna do that.
It's like defensive linemen that are like doing the gritty after a sack or whatever,
or doing
which
the
I
like.
don't know.
I think it's Darius Smith like a couple years ago did the Daniil Hunter like burst through the door thing when he was on the Packers. So it's just
And then he wound up being teammates.
It's and then they did it together. It's just competition. It's just this is what happens in sports, NFL. These guys are playing a kids game. They like to have fun too. But here's a question: at this moment, would you rather have as the Vikings quarterback Kirk Cousins or Kyler Murray?
If we were playing Madden, I'd say Kyler Murray.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fitting because Madden's a video game, and Kyler Murray. But I mean, I just personally I like that skill set of like running around, making plays, looking downfield. I feel like for what Kevin O'Connell is doing, I feel like Kirk is a better quarterback, and I think his leadership. We've seen that this year. People are gravitating to Kirk. He's like doing the whole chains thing and everything else, and maybe he's like not comfortable with it, but I think it's working. And I think that, I mean, they're both on the same pay scale now. So I'd probably go with Kirk in this, real life scenario.
It's so weird. You wouldn't have said that.
No, I didn't say that. I actually had Kyler Murray ahead of Kirk Cousins.
3 or 4 months ago, you would not. Nobody would have said like Kirk stands would have said that. But
we're frauds.
But
we're confirmed frauds now. Everybody's just gonna light us
just
up.
Just like the Vikings. So it's no, I wouldn't want Kyler Murray based on how much he gets paid, based on his skill level. The Cardinals should be one of the best teams in the NFL, if not just like fighting for their division title, and they're not even close. I think they have 4 wins. When you pay a quarterback like that, that's unacceptable. I know he's missed a few games, but they should be able to be a contender with that kind of quarterback and that kind of skill set. He is very talented, but like I said already, he reminds me of like some players where they have all the talent in the world. They kind of maybe fall back on that a little bit more than they should, and don't really worry about all of like the work that actually has to be put in. Like that clause in his contract about studying film for 4 hours a week, that was put in there for a reason. That wasn't random. That was put in there for a reason. And, it got taken out or whatever because it was made public by his agent. But that was put in there for a reason. It's clear that, there's something that, he might not do like some other quarterbacks do. So, it makes me think of guys like I'm listening to this podcast now, so this is why it comes to my mind. But Ryan Leaf, not to that extent, but like tons of talent, but he just didn't have what it took to, put it all together in the NFL, be that leader, and guys like Jeff George too. Like they were like, there's a lot of guys who had lots of talent, but for whatever reason they get in the NFL, and it doesn't matter because everyone has talent in the NFL. So. Yeah, I'd rather have Kirk Cousins. That's so weird to say. All right, moving on to our next topic, which has to do with Christian Darrisaw, who suffered his second concussion in 2 weeks against the Patriots. Against the Cowboys, because he did not play against the Patriots, and Blake Brandel stepped in for him and did pretty well. But he had a bunch of help from tight ends and running backs. But Christian Darrisaw was out. He did not practice on Wednesday. Kevin O'Connell said there's really no timetable for his return, which is understandable. Given what we saw with Tua early this year, I'm I- I'm not going to say that Christian Darrisaw's concussions are to the extent of Tua's. We also don't know. Just because certain people react different ways when they get concussions. Tua was stumbling all over the place, and I don't think we saw that from Christian Darrisaw. But it seems like Darrisaw is going to miss multiple games, including this weekend against the Jets. I wouldn't be surprised if he misses the next one. So Christian Darrisaw not being out there for multiple games, does this kind of, you know, does the Vikings shot at the number one seed in the NFC go down the drain if they don't have him on the field?
Well, the next 2 weeks are I mean, this game against the Jets is going to be really interesting too because
Yep.
the Jets have a pretty good pass rush.
Yep.
Detroit has Aiden Hutchinson, who Christian Darrisaw completely neutralized in week 3.
Yep.
So that would be a loss there. And then you have the Colts, who I just don't know how to figure them out. Just it's hard to take them seriously with Jeff Saturday as coach. Like, the whole I ain't scared, bro, type of thing. I don't, hard to shake that out of my head. I think the Vikings can win these games without Christian Darrisaw. I think they did enough. I mean, they stopped Matthew Judon last week against the Patriots. You can't expect like Christian. I have baseball on the brain, I guess, since I'm wearing the Twins hat. But Christian Darrisaw type performance in these scenarios. But I think they can keep pace. Like I said, I think if the Vikings lose a game, it's going to be for another reason than the offensive line. I very concerned about the secondary still, even with players getting back. I think these are just winnable games. I don't think any of these games I look at and be like, oh, there's no way the Vikings can't beat the Lions without Christian Darrisaw. Oh, there's no way the Vikings could beat, the Colts or the Giants or Jordan Love and the Packers and the Bears. That's the whole schedule. I just lifted it off like stream of consciousness. I don't know. I'm really weird. I did a workout and now like my body's just like, what are you like, I don't know. Just bear with me today.
Yeah, I think it's not going to make things any easier if he's not out there. Obviously, he's been playing like an all-pro. Hopefully, he still gets that nod this year. I don't think he's going to now with missing this time. But he's deserving of that, recognition if he gets an all-pro nod this year. And it makes the offense for the Vikings probably more dangerous because they don't have to have a tight end or a running back hanging back to help out, on the left side of the line. They can just have Darrisaw over there by himself, and they can do different things with their offense. So that will limit them a little bit. But they're going to have a tough time with the Jets, especially, whether Darrisaw is out there or not. The Jets are a very good defense and one of the best in the league. Have a very good pass rush. So I don't know. I still think they're in contention for the number one seed, even if Darrisaw misses multiple games. I believe, Dalvin Tomlinson's expected to come back this weekend against the Jets. Caleb Evans expected to come back. Who else? Cameron Dancer is probably going to be back. Not this weekend, but probably against the Lions. So they're getting a bunch of guys back. Andrew Booth isn't playing. He's out for the rest of the year, but he wasn't really doing that hot anyways when he was on the field. So the Vikings have been doing pretty good filling in for guys that are injured, and I expect them to do the same. I feel more confident. Like if Christian Darrisaw was going to miss multiple games with the previous regime, with the Zimmer regime, which didn't really feel like they made that many adjustments regarding, regardless of who was out there. They're like, oh, well, you're left tackle. You got to be by yourself every play. TJ Clemmings, doesn't matter. But I think, this regime knows that they can't just leave Blake Brandel out there, on an island by himself every play, because that will just they won't be able to do. It'll be the Cowboys game. They won't be able to do anything on offense at all. But looking back specifically at Darrisaw, he's gotten 2 concussions in 2 weeks in a row. Looking back, he probably shouldn't have played against the Cowboys. Probably should have not done that. But the big game, he probably wanted to play. Should
And
we?
he cleared protocol. It wasn't like they
Yeah.
tossed him out there,
Right. Should we be concerned about Derisaw's maybe long-term future with the Vikings? Just future in football, I guess, in general, with these multiple concussions in 2 weeks.
I think a little bit. I mean, it's hard to know, right?
Right.
I mean, we all thought he was fine when he came back against the Cowboys, and 3 plays later, it's like, oh, he's not okay.
Right.
So, and I think we've seen too, you can pass protocol and not be ready to play. I think maybe that's going to be something that gets tweaked. Like maybe, they might get to the point where they say, if you get a concussion in a game, you're not playing next week.
Yep.
Like automatic, like 2-week minimum.
Yep.
Like you're done. And I mean that, some players would probably, the football guys would probably be like, what do you mean? I feel fine. I can do everything. No, you're not. Like, just to err on the side of caution. And it's also tough to do something like that because, people pay. So let's say, knock on wood, but let's say Justin Jefferson gets a concussion.
Right.
All the money that's, fans are paying. I mean, there is a $150 get-in price for Sunday's game to go see Mike White against Kirk Cousins. And granted, this is like, super sub Mike White against 1 p.m. Kirk Cousins. So this is like The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin going head to head at WrestleMania 17. But, it's just, it's hard to know. I mean, you got to be a little bit concerned. My guess is we'll see him if he's not back by the end of the season, I would be very worried about Christian Darrisaw. But if he comes back at some point this season, plays a couple games, looks fine, you just kind of worry about it down the road, but it's not like a glaring concern. If he doesn't play the rest of the year, there's problems. But
yeah, I think he's going to miss this game, so it'll be 2 games that he's missed. I was looking back at Tua, not that the Dolphins doctors are the best to go off of with their decisions, but he only missed 2 games. So this weekend and last week would be 2 games for Darrisaw.
And do you really need him for Detroit?
I was gonna say I wouldn't really be surprised if they just kept him out for another game just to be precautious because the Vikings are gonna make the playoffs. They're gonna need Darrisaw in the playoffs. So
they could clinch on Sunday with the win and Lions loss.
Yeah. So do you want Darrisaw in the playoffs or do you want him in week 15 or 14 to beat the Lions? I think we all know the answer to that. So
I don't know. Gotta save those kneecaps, man.
So if he has to sit out, then whatever, that's fine. He's in his second year. The Vikings you have to be worried about, not worried, but just your priority probably has to be more on his long-term future than this season. Right now, that's the smart way to go. You're probably not gonna have many opportunities to be 9-2 in the NFL. So you want to take advantage of the season as much as possible, but you also want to make sure that Christian Darrisaw is there for the next few years to help you try and get back to being 9-2. So I wouldn't be surprised if he misses the Lions game as well. So he would return maybe week 15 against the Colts. I think that's probably the best case scenario for Christian Darrisaw. And then if he's out until week 17, New Year's Day against the Packers, I think that's pretty concerning. But I also kind of feel comfortable with this injury staff, this training staff that the Vikings have now because they seem pretty up to date as far as like more procedures to help you stay healthy for the now and for the future. So I would be less worried if he is out for an extended period of time with this training staff. So
it is funny when you think about it that way, when people were so up in arms because Eric Sugarman got fired. Why did they get rid of the trainer? Well, it turned out to be okay because nobody seems to be hurt right now.
He had some question marks before he was let go. There's like
a little bit of skeletons in the closet.
Yeah, there's a couple old Deadspin articles with him involved that don't paint him in the greatest light. So wasn't surprised by that dismissal. All right, the Vikings take on the Jets on Sunday. noon Central Time kickoff inside U.S. Bank Stadium. Just prime Kirk Cousins time. The Vikings, I believe, right now on FanDuel are currently favored by 3. Yes, they are 3 points, and the over
Do
under.
we know the announcers though?
It's Ian Eagle, I think,
Oh, okay.
or Ian Eagle. I don't
That's
know.
right. It's a CBS game, so it's
Right.
not Chris Myers and
Right.
Mark Schlereth or
Right.
whoever.
I like
No.
Ian Eagle.
Ian Eagle is awesome. His
Ian Eagle,
his
yeah.
kids is very good too. Noah Eagle.
Yeah, both
They sound
Syracuse
alike.
alums.
Yes.
Prestigious
Go
journalism
Orange,
school.
right?
Yes. Over under is 44.5, which is much higher than it was for the Vikings Patriots game, I believe. But it'll be tough. The Jets are good this year. Jets are, I think they're in their third place in the AFC East, which is one of the best divisions in football this year. They're 7-4. They have one of the best defenses in the league right now. Robert Saleh is doing really good work with that team, and they look to be heading in the right direction. They need to figure their quarterback situation out, but right now they're doing pretty well. So the Vikings will win on Sunday if what happens?
I think they'll win if Justin Jefferson has a big game. And that's not exactly a given because a lot of people are looking at this going like, oh, Jefferson and Sauce Gardner. But what do the Vikings like to do? They like to move Justin Jefferson all throughout the formation, right?
Yep.
Sauce Gardner has just 6 coverage snaps in the slot this season. And he's primarily played, I can't remember the terminology, but I was listening to the Locked On Vikings podcast this morning, and they said that he's routinely played away from these top receivers. Now, they had him follow Stephon Diggs a little bit and play the boundary side, which is the shorter side of the field. So he usually plays the long side. I'm trying to remember the terminology that they said. But when I listen to that, I think, okay, what are the Vikings love moving Justin Jefferson around? I think that he can have a big game. And like, I don't know who on this offense is going to step up. Jermaine Johnson has been very good against the run. So that could neutralize Dalvin Cook after a rough game against the Patriots. We've seen this receiver group. I know Adam Thielen's from Minnesota and hates dry turkey, but yeah, it's amazing, right? But it's been very rare for a receiver not named Justin Jefferson to step up. Maybe TJ Hawkinson can have a big game. I'm not sure how the Jets go against tight end, but I mean, this defense was ranked 31st by Pro Football Focus last year. Now they are number 1. Mm-hmm. It is a great turnaround. It's a testament to the roster that Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas have built over the course of a year. The only thing they've gotten wrong is the quarterback. And that could be, super sub Mike White trying to lead the Jets to victory. I don't like his odds in US Bank Stadium. So I think the key will be Justin Jefferson. I'm not sure what the exact key is. It's one of those weird ones, but somebody has stepped up for the Vikings throughout the season, and I don't expect anything different on Sunday.
Yeah, last week, Mike White had the opportunity to go against the Chicago Bears in the pouring rain on their home field. The Bears, who currently rank 27th in scoring.
The Garrett Wilson touchdown, the long one, there's a Bears player hurt on the field. They were playing with 10 guys on that play. And he's
Eddie Jackson got hurt. Yeah.
Yep. He's what was it, Achilles or something? But he's just sitting there and he just runs right past him. I'm like, well, that wouldn't have been a score if that didn't happen. Take what you can get, I guess.
But yeah, I don't know about saying that wouldn't be a score with this bend don't break defense because there's a lot of bending going on with the Vikings.
They are Gumby.
Lately. Yeah, they're just like Stretch Armstrong this year.
I think we just dated the shit out of ourselves with those two references, by the way. What the hell's a Gumby? What Stretch Armstrong? Who the bleep is that?
Those, oh man, side note, Stretch Armstrong, those used to get so hard you could chuck them at people's head. It'd be like throwing a rock at their head. It would it was a weapon. Back to the game.
Even rob a bank with a Stretch Armstrong,
even if Sauce Gardner isn't covering Justin Jefferson, the Jets still have a really good number 2 corner as well. DJ Reed Jr. is the number 12 corner, graded corner by PFF this year. So he's no slouch either. They have a very good secondary. So scoring points, gaining pass yards against this Jets defense is going to be a tall task. They've allowed, I believe, under 200 passing yards in their last 4 games. They haven't allowed more than 218 passing yards since week 3. So bang that under for whatever Kirk Cousins' passing yards are this week. But we thought this a lot about this last week. I feel like against the Patriots. The Patriots have a very good defense too. They're number 1, number 2, DVOA, all that fun stuff. And the Vikings just scored 33 points on them. 7 of that was a kick return. Okay, take that away. That's still 26 points from the offense. That's pretty good against a number 1 defense. So the Vikings can find ways to score. Kevin O'Connell's pretty creative. I feel like he's going to go into this game with a good game plan. They've had extra time to prepare for this because they played on Thursday. So they'll have, some extra days to get that game plan kind of sorted out. But as far as what they need to do to win, I feel like they need to get pressure on Mike White. Get that stadium real loud, make sure he can't hear. He's not a starting quarterback for a reason. And he's got talent or whatever, but he's not a starting quarterback. And anything you can do to ruffle his feathers or fluster him or whatever, you need to do. Zadarius Smith, hopefully this extended period of time to this mini bye will help him get a little healthier because he wasn't much of a factor against the Patriots. He had 5 pressures, but I feel like 4 of those probably came in like the last drive that the Patriots had. So they need more help. If Delvin Tomlinson's coming back, that's huge because he's been really good as a pass rusher this year as well. So I think getting to Mike White will be the key to the Vikings beating the Jets on Sunday. And also, Greg Joseph, make your extra points, man. What is going on? Come on. I think I saw somebody's miss an extra point or a kick in 5 of his last 7 games. Come on, man. Get your shit together. The Vikings will lose to the Jets on Sunday if what happens?
The offensive line gets dominated because Quinnen Williams I think he's 4th in Pro Football Focus's grades. The other guys are like Chris Jones, Aaron Donald, and I can't remember the other guy, but he's really good. Trust me on that one. He's also 7th in pressures right now.
Yeah, he's 4th.
Of course, yeah. Oh, so he's 4th. So I named it. Okay, never mind. Yep. But yeah, he's 7th in pressures right now.
Yep.
Obviously, the Vikings interior of the defensive line isn't very good. He normally lines up against left guard. So, out of the 3, him going against Ezra Cleveland isn't bad, but Cleveland also allowed 9 pressures to Jonathan Allen. So we don't really know.
Yeah, he might have a different game plan on Sunday, though. I think Salah will be like, hey, why don't you go against Ed Ingram? Because he's terrible.
Look at this guy. Look at Ed Ingram has 45 quarterback pressures, and I think the next guy has like 34. And he's a rookie. He's a rookie. I like him in the run blocking game. Dakota Dozier was just completely worthless. There's something with Ed Ingram that you can point to and be like, okay, he's really good at this. Can you fix the pass protection?
He has a ceiling.
Yeah, Dakota Dozier was just a trash can, basically. Ed Ingram's pretty close right now, but
who was before Dozier? Who was that? There's somebody else who was terrible too.
Was it Remmers?
Wasn't Josh Klein? Was he on the right side?
Josh Klein, yes. But he wasn't. I don't think he was terrible. He was just bad. No.
Ezra Cleveland was over there for a little bit as a rookie. Then Dozier. Yeah. Oh, Ali Udo.
Oh God, yes. The day before.
Hey, you know how you play tackle? You know how you played tackle your whole career? We're gonna make you a guard.
We drafted Wyatt Davis in the 3rd round, but he sucks. So good luck.
Not only are we gonna make you a guard, but you're gonna start. Oh, okay.
Is Wyatt Davis still on the Giants practice squad?
No, he got released a long time ago.
So he's just chilling.
he's on the Saints or the Cardinals or something. Like
Saints sounds familiar because they were talking about the possibility of him starting at one point against the Vikings, which would have been absolutely
he's on the
hilarious.
Cardinals right now. I think he's on the Cardinals practice squad.
Cardinals, okay. That's like his third practice squad.
Yeah.
Man.
I don't know what happened, man. Like, how are you a two-time All-American? You come in the NFL and you're just terrible. But we don't know.
Like, not even on a roster good.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the offensive line is huge, especially against this defense. I think not turning the ball over. We've seen Kirk Cousins have some boneheaded throws, especially last week against the Patriots. He had one interception, then he had a couple throws there where you're like, oh. I think what's his face? KJ Osborne saved another pick by ripping the ball out of cornerback's hands. The Vikings receivers apparently just love to just rip the balls out of cornerback's hands recently. How about they just get the ball thrown to their hands instead of having to do that? Yeah, limiting turnovers, because I feel like this is a Jets team that doesn't, they're going to have a backup quarterback. Don't give them possession of the football on like your own 30-yard line or your 40-yard line. That's just, you're just giving the ball game away. Special teams got to be on point as well. I just read about how Matt Daniels and their assistant special teams coach basically just drew up that return play from scratch for Kene Nwangwu on that touchdown return. So it feels like they're kind of maybe getting somewhere with him, because he's been kind of quiet this year until that kick return. So hopefully that's a sign of more good to come. But yeah, limiting turnovers, like it's all this stuff we always talk about, how they're going to lose. Like, it seems so simple, but like, don't turn the ball over. Don't give them easy stuff. You're at home. Win this game. Get to 10-2. Keep track with the Eagles, who the Eagles are playing the Titans. That's not a game for the Eagles. So you could make some serious ground if you just take care of your own business, beat the Jets. So yeah. Final score prediction. You got anything? The over/under is 44.5.
I haven't even thought of this, but all right. Vikings are incapable of winning a game by less than a possession.
Correct.
So that is, and we got 44. I'm gonna go 24-21. I think it'll be close. I also see yours in front of me, and that's why I'm just kind of like, yeah, it sounds about right.
Oh, you're doing.
I don't know. I thought they were gonna score 13 points last week, and they had a chance to hang 40 on Belichick.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know what this team's gonna do from week to week.
It's noon Kirk Cousins, so you never know what's gonna happen.
This is Peyton Manning and Tom Brady against
4 or
super
5
sub Mike White.
4 or 5 touchdown game.
You also mentioned pressure. I was going to point this out as well. Mike White had 30 dropbacks on Sunday against the Bears. He's pressured on 3 of them. I think I mentioned it in the last episode too, but I mean, it just still blows my mind. So when you but the other thing is too, like Mike White had 8 interceptions last year. 5 of them were with a clean pocket. So it's just like a throw. It's like, all right, no.
He's going to make mistakes.
Yes.
So you got to,
especially if you can get in the backfield. But
yeah, and I think the Vikings haven't had a turnover in their last 2 games, and that's something that they were able to do. They had a turnover in every other game, and that's part of like the bend don't break defense. You're bending and bending and bending, and then you get a turnover, and that's your stop. But they haven't gotten a turnover in the last 2 weeks, and I think going against someone like Mike White, you're going to get your chances. So you got to take advantage of those as well. And I know for a fact one of those 3 pressures by the Bears was by Mr. Armon Watts, because I know he had a sack last week. I caught that.
Congratulations. I think it was his first one with the Bears, too.
Yes, I think so, too.
Only took until week 13. No,
Armon Watts.
Armon Watts and Amir Smith-Marset both went to the Bears. What will we do?
What are they thinking? Yeah. All right. Yeah, I got 24-20, so you took the Price is Right route and just went with the dollar ahead of me at 24-21. So we'll see who's right. But yeah, that's it for today's show. We'll be back on Monday, hopefully after a win. If you're watching on YouTube, again, make sure to subscribe to this channel and like this video, and follow the Viking Age on Twitter and Facebook. The audio version of this podcast will be available probably tomorrow morning on Apple Podcasts, the Apple Podcast app, Spotify, what else? iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts, it'll be available. But until next time, Chris and I talk to you later.